Hey everyone, it's Kat. I've got a new video for you. This is actually going to be the first video in a new series. I'm still working on helping new and returning players to EQ2, but with my last video series, we really were focusing on people that wanted to play Chaos Descending. So it was all the high level tunes doing the latest expansion. I'm hoping that this video is going to help them, but also players at all levels coming back to the game as well. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to just start off back at the fundamentals and back at the basics, and we're going to talk about your UI settings and your hotbars. And that's what I really want to focus on today is your hotbars and how to set them up in a way that is really kind of clear and logical and helps you to be the best player you can. It's something that we all use all the time, but I don't think we put enough time or effort or thought into maybe organizing it the best way that we can always. So that's what I want to talk about. So first off though is like, where do you put your hotbars on your screen and how do you move them around? So if you hit F10, okay, and this is just the default, you'll see it pops up all your windows. And this is something that you can then move stuff around on your screen. If you want, you can make it bigger, you can make it wider. It doesn't really work making the hotbars bigger, but you can move them around to someplace on your screen. And what you want to do is, first off, you can have up to 10 hotbars, you can have less than that, but you do want to have all your hotbars together as compact and close together as possible, right? You do not want to spread your hotbars out across your entire page, okay? You want to have, when you're in a fight, when you're in the middle of a zone trying to take on an encounter, you don't want to be mousing across your entire page from the length of it. You want to have as few and as small key like mouse movements as possible to get to the spells that you need. So close together and compact. And I would say put them someplace where it's easy to get to, but that you leave as much of your screen open and visible as possible. Like, you don't want to over clutter your screen any more than you absolutely have to. So try to keep stuff you know, to the sides as much as you can. Okay, and then just to get back to normal, all you have to do is just keep hitting F10 through it cycles through. But if I actually want to adjust the hotbars themselves, all I have to do is right click on one of these icons. Okay, and it'll give me different options. I can examine the spell, I can create a macro, I can clear an individual hotkey, or as you see down here, it lets me clear all the hotkeys. Now, this only works per row. So all the changes I'm going to make using this right click method, it's only going to affect the single row of my hotbars. If I want to make the same changes on the next row and then all the others, I do have to right click on any of the icons to pull up the same thing. Okay, so and it'll let me close hotbars. It'll let me, like right now I have 10 bars already open, so it won't let me open any more. But if you had less than that, it would give you the option to open a new hotbar as well. So I'm going to go to hotbar settings. And this is where I can adjust the size of the hotbar. So I can make it smaller. So you see, it made that one little. And then I can make it bigger if I want. What you want to do is you want to choose the smallest size possible, but that is still comfortable for you. That you still comfortable that you're not going to misclick or not hit it, and that you can still see what the icon is without taking up more screen space than you need to. So for me, that's 34. That's what's nice and comfortable. You have the option here of putting extra padding between your hotbars. So basically, that's the space in between these rows. Now, you don't want to have a lot of that. Like I said, compact is better so you can free up your screen, but you don't want to go all the way down to 0. You don't want them like butting right up against each other, because it makes it too easy to misclick and hit the wrong spell then. And you know, chances are it'll be something like Feign Death or Evac, right? It's always one of those when people misclick. The other thing you can do is you can take all the text off your icons. So as you'll see, I don't have any of the like 1, 2, 3 or Alt 1, 2, 3 or Control. I would rather be able to see my icon and see what spell it is. So the way to do that is to choose text styles, choose none. You have some other options down here. There's the spinner option, which I do not endorse at all. I think this is pretty terrible. But what it does here is it gives you the spinner and you can go through all your hotbars. And for me, this is pretty awful. Like, the last thing you want to be doing is, if you're in a hurry, if you're rushed, if you're in the middle of the fight, is well, let me scroll through my hotbars here. Let me scroll. Nope, nope, I don't want that one. Okay, this one. Maybe let me look at all the spells, and okay, that's the right one. You're just better off not doing the spinner at all. Other options we get down here is to do the allow draggable, and this is really, really helpful for when you're like arranging your spells. So when you're actually going through and kind of logically thinking, okay, where do I want to put this group of spells, where do I want to put these? Allow draggable is really easy, and again, you'd have to do that for each row to like get the whole thing. But make sure that you don't forget that it's on and that you take it off, because it is very, very easy to be in a fight and want to click on a spell and accidentally drag your icon off in the middle of a fight. So it's awkward. It can totally throw you off, make you panic. I've had that happen, believe me. Make sure that allow draggable is off. Okay, so that's probably pretty good as far as, you know, the actual like adjusting the hotbars, but I also want to talk to you guys about organizing them and where you're putting your spells. So what you want to do is you want to set this up in a way that kind of makes sense and is really logical. I tend to do this in groups. Okay, so I have some like really big groups, and then as I go down, I get smaller and smaller groups. That makes sense for me. So the way I do it anyway is on the right side here is I have the stack of hotbars, and this is stuff that I use frequently, okay? Stuff that I use a lot, but maybe not in every single fight. It's things that I'll use several times a day or maybe several times in a zone, but I might go a few names without using any of this. Stuff on the left tends to be like my higher frequency. This is all my actual fighting spells, and that I'm going to use these a lot and all the time. And what I want is, when I'm in a fight, is I want to make short and quick movements between my spells. I don't want to have to be dodging back and forth between my right and left side if I don't have to. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. So I'm going to talk about my right side first. So what I have here is, on the bottom is I tend to have like all my buffs here together. And these are all those, you know, the duration is they maintain until you cancel them. Okay, and I see a lot of people that think that this means that they don't need to have those spells on your hotbars, and that couldn't be more wrong, right? You absolutely need to have those on your hotbars, and I'll tell you why. Because you will run into bosses that will debuff you. Okay, there are plenty of mobs out there that will strip you of your buffs, and the last thing you want to have to do during a fight like that is to, oh, oops, they took off my whatever buff, so my health is dropped, my potency is dropped, I've lost this group buff that was helping out our entire group. Let me pull up my knowledge book and I'll like flip through my 10 pages of spells and try to find that one maintained spell. Like, you don't want to do that. You don't want to have to do that in the middle of a fight. You don't even want to have to do that between fights in the middle of a group. So much better to have it on your hotbars, where you can, one, see it really obviously when they do debuff you, but two, so that you can reapply it immediately and don't have to wait. And don't have to slow down your group, okay? So the other thing I'll keep over here is I'll keep all my power potions, and I keep them all together. So not every single fight you have is going to have a power drain, but you're going to face enough of them that you do want to have that handy and on your hotbars. So, and those are the type of spells I have on my left hand side, right? So I have my snacks that are good for, I think it's 12 minutes. So every 12 minutes I go back and I eat my snacks. I have some trade skill, I have some transportation spells, but I do group them together so that it makes sense to me. On my on my left hand side here, and these are my actual fighting spells, right? Is that this is my tank, my Shadow Knight. So this might vary a little bit depending on your class, but I like to keep all my similar spells that do the same function, right? I like to keep those all together. So for my tank anyway, that is like all my snaps and all my taunts are going to be together. I'm going to have all my debuffs together. I'm going to have all my just straight up damage, combat arts, and spells together. I'm going to have all my spells and combat arts that do damage and heals for me together, and I'm also going to have like all my death prevents together. So I'm gonna try to keep it so that even if I don't remember what every single spell I have is, I know that in this group or in this section, this spot on my hotbars, this is where I go for this type of spell. Okay, eventually you'll get to the point where you go, oh, okay, I know this icon. Okay, this guy right here, that's Shadow Knight's Fervor, I know what that does. Or this one here, that's Bloodletter, I know what that does. But until then, you know, keep your like stuff together. It'll make it much easier for you to actually learn what they do. Now, like I said, I have groups within groups within groups. So not only do I have my like spells together, but within those, you might notice, like, say, here is all my kind of damage and healing spells. Well, I have a bunch of these pink guys together. Well, and it's not just because I like the color pink, right? Okay, there's another reason besides it, besides aesthetics, is that the background color on these spells actually tell you what kind of spell they are. So there are different functions, like the stuff that have the yellow background, that's stuff that affects you, right? That is a spell you cast on yourself. You don't even need to target yourself. The stuff that has this kind of orangey background, that is something that you cast on a friend in your group. Okay, so that's something that you can give a buff or whatever you can give to a friend. Stuff that has the purple background, that's going to hit your entire group that you're with or your entire raid. Those are beneficial spells for you, but there's also attack spells, and we have different backgrounds for those too. So you get these kind of pinkish red spells. Those are single target spells, so that is an attack on a single target. Okay, you have the green background. Those are encounter spells, so that's going to get all the mobs that you're fighting, kind of all the linked mobs, right? And then lastly, you're going to get your blue background, which is your AoEs, right? Your area of attack. So that will just, anybody within a certain radius of you is going to get hit by that spell, whether it's mad at you at the moment or not, right? Important to keep these separate, important to know what each of these does. And I'll tell you why, because a lot of times you'll get into a fight where you can only kill certain ads and you have to leave other ones up, or you have to kill them in a certain order, or, you know, whatever it is, it's some part of a script where you just can't kill things because you'll trigger something else to happen. So I will keep, you know, and you don't want to be hunting around, well, where is that single target that I cannot, you know, do this with? Better to keep them all together and make it really easy when you're fighting one of those, that you can just kind of stick right in this little area to hit those spells that you need. And if you're thinking, oh, but I don't need to worry about that because I have singular focus on, that's not how singular focus works, okay? So singular focus, what that does, and it's a spell that if you don't have it, you can go get it from a class trainer. They sell them for everybody. Is that it disables your ability to AE auto attack. Okay, that does not mean that you cannot AoE when it's on, right? If you hit a blue background spell with singular focus on, you're still AoEing. It just blocks the auto attack. Okay, so you still need to, even with singular focus, be aware of your single target spell versus your AoE. And the one thing I will say about singular focus is that it can be really, really useful, but if a dev ever sees this, please, please, please change singular focus so that it expires after a set amount of time, like 15-20 minutes, because as is, it lasts until canceled, and this is one of the things that I am horrible about, that I do a terrible job with, is I forget that I have it on and I leave it on forever. Luckily I have friends that, you know, delight in pointing out that I still have it on, so eventually I take it off. But you know, if you don't know, like, check right now, make sure you don't have singular focus on. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about with hotbars then is make sure that you guys have the latest version of your spells on your hotbars. Okay, don't just assume that you're going to get updated with the right version. You want to double check and make sure you have the best one on. Easiest way to do that is go to your knowledge book, go to either combat arts, spells, whichever it is, but this little sort button, click this, make sure that you have it for max level only. Okay, and make sure whatever that max level is, that's the one that you have, because the max level spell at expert is always going to be better than master, grandmaster at a lower level. Okay, I think that's everything I wanted to cover for hotbars. We will revisit UI settings and we'll talk about all our windows, all these extra windows that you can pull up that are really helpful, and we'll go kind of deeper into detail with your options and how you can customize that in ways that it's really going to help you. All right, thanks guys. Until next time.